What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of B.O.P. We want to say Happy New Year. This is the New Year, B.O.P. We coming in. This is your boy A.D. We got Jules and OG Triple C-Roll in the building. What up, fellas?
Happy New Year's, man. Happy New Year's, baby.
What's going on, fellas?
2023.
We made it to another year, and we finally about to make it to another season of the Houston Texans being just ass. And Jules already put up on his picture. He already putting it up who he want, who we leaning for, leaning towards. We're gonna talk about that number one pick, and we're gonna be praying real hard prayers on Sunday for that number one pick. But let's talk about it, man. Houston Texans played a football game on Sunday, and they took another L to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I would call it a debacle. Everything that we not wanted, but everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Fumbles, couldn't move the ball. Texans, only was able to score 3 points. We lost the game 31-3. A fumble recovery for a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence was taken out at halftime. Jacksonville rested their starters at halftime. I mean, it was just a utter shit show.
Or another game, pretty much for the Texans. Pretty much,
it was status quo for the Houston Texans at this point in time. But I digress, and let's talk about the game. What are y'all fellas thoughts about the game? Did y'all see anything that caught your attention? That any positives? And we're gonna talk about the positives. Let's talk about the positives first. Then we can go ahead and deep dive into what the shit that needs to be fixed.
Well, I'll go first. The positive is the game ended. And we get to see another game next week. No one got seriously hurt.
Yeah.
Pep showed that he can't coach on this level. Lovey did what Lovey does. More evaluations of Mills not being the guy. The running back area needs help. I mean, there's nothing beyond our one-star offense that does well. So
You mean you didn't like Burkhead?
you know how much I love Burkhead. Oh, Tonto is an All-Pro. I mean, I know we talked about that before.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give props to Tonto because we said some positives. So Tonto is an All-Pro, even though the line is trash. No, we have.
Oh, Jules, you cut out.
We got All-Pro. Okay.
There we go. All right. So what you got, Chris?
Oh man, the positives are the season is almost over. We got one more game that is so positive. The positive is we didn't win. I think that was a positive. You have to look at the bright light, not the bright light, but you have to look at the
bigger picture.
The big picture, no, we didn't win this game. No, yes, this is the first time the Jags beat us in I don't know how many games.
3 years. It's been 3 years since they beat us.
3 whole years, and yes, they kicked our ass 30-3, but I was proud of our guys. I was proud of the non-tanking game that we played. We couldn't have done it better. I mean, anytime that you put two below average quarterbacks on the field at the same time, I think you're going in the right direction if you're trying to get the number one overall pick. And to see Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll on the field at the same time was magnificent. We just got one more week to do it right. But the one thing that the positive again, as always, is Jalen Petrie.
Yeah.
That kid there. And let's be honest, if he was on a winning team this year, he would be Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's leading the team in tackles. I don't know how much tackles he has compared to the rest of the AFC or the NFL. He's got 4 or 5 interceptions.
Yeah, 5 interceptions, 125 tackles. He is. Hold on.
That's unbelievable for a rookie, man. and he's making the plays when they count. These aren't trash stats. He's making these plays in the first quarter, second quarter,
Hey,
against every
so,
team.
so let me say this. So combined tackles, he has 139 combined tackles.
Woo.
And that puts him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Puts him right outside the top 10. He's number 11 in the NFL in tackles. What's crazy stat is Alua Khan from Jacksonville has 171 combined tackles.
Luakon, that's the D.
That's the
That's the
linebacker.
linebacker.
That's the
The
linebacker.
linebacker. Wow,
The inside linebacker from Jacksonville has
that is.
171 tackles, man.
And even with all those tackles that Petrie has, we still can't stop the run.
Yeah.
They let they let ATN have a field day on us, and it was just unbelievable that he squirts out of the holes. He wasn't even getting touched at the first two levels, and Petrie was just trying to save the day.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I
thank
mean,
God for Petrie, man.
I mean, Chris, when your safety is 15 yards back, got to make a tackle. That's 10 yards of pop right there.
That's horrible, ain't it? That is horrible. So yeah,
Oh,
we got to fix that front seven. But yeah,
so
man, Petrie was a highlight.
yeah,
Who else?
so for
I can't
me,
say nobody on offense besides the offensive line. I think the line held up pretty good, didn't it?
uh, I mean they did all right. They had their moments, but we're
Yeah,
gonna talk about that in a minute.
gotcha.
The positive for me is the Houston Texans understood the assignment. They understood the assignment. They knew
That's
they
right.
needed to walk in the NRG. They heard all the reports. I think it was Ian Rappaport that put out the article. It was like the Houston Texans are going to evaluate Lovie Smith at the end of the season, and they're going to evaluate his whole tenure, and how the team is played and everything like that. And they said, you know what, we heard you. We about to show you why he need to be gone. So let's go out there and just shit the bed and do
Hey,
whatever. But the positives, other than they understood the assignment, like you said, Jalen Petrie, Christian Harris played a hell of a game, and I saw a lot more Blake Cashman
Yeah,
playing in this game. So just those little spots, that we trying to fill and we trying to see. I'm happy to see more of those guys playing and getting more time and less of the Christian Kirksies of the world. Um, so all of those things considered, those were the positives. I mean, you scored 3 points on offense, ain't no positives to talk about. Offensive line included. I mean, couldn't do anything. Couldn't run the ball, couldn't pass the ball. I think at halftime, Davis Mills had less than 50 yards total passing. Um,
wasn't 46?
that's
yeah,
just
had 46 yards passing at halftime. So I mean, it's just like another routine game where he didn't throw for 200 yards passing. That makes out of his how many games has he played? Because Allen only started
too
two.
many.
So this is his 14th game of the season. Out of 14 games he's thrown over 200 yards passing five out of 14. Five
That's
games out of 14. And we can talk about Pep Hamilton, him being a problem. We can talk about, the lack of weapons and everything like that. But at the end of the day, it's a combination of everybody. Everybody plays a part in all that. Everybody gets the blame.
His best stat is that he's available.
Yeah. Davis Mills has not gotten hurt. He's not been on the injury report not one time this season. Um, Shout out to Davis Mills for being, durable. Um, Other than that, let's the negatives is we need a lot of shit. we need a lot. We about to get a lot in this draft coming up, but let's pray that the Minnesota Vikings rest their starters. We were in a space yesterday. The Vikings fan already said it's been reported that they are going to rest their starters against the Chicago Bears because their spot is solidified. Um, so we're just hoping for the Bears to come out and play, like the hell on fire and pull out the win and secure us that spot.
Yeah, man, and I don't mean to cut off and jump subjects, but speaking of praying, man, we forgot to pray for Damar Hamlin,
Yeah.
for Buffalo Bills, man. The B.O.P wants to send our prayers and well wishes for his family and for himself. He was the gentleman. He was a young man who had, I believe it was a cardiac arrest
Hmm.
after taking a shot to the chest in the game last night. He collapsed on the field. Actually, they had to resuscitate him. Said he his it was a 9 minute period where they had to resuscitate him where his heart had stopped. So God was with him. God has
Hmm.
blessed him. They've got him to a hospital last night, and they had him on oxygen. They sedated him. They was they did everything that they could, and they're still doing it. And I believe that he's went from needing 100% oxygen to 50% oxygen. He's still in critical condition, but he is getting better. We believe. So we
Hmm.
just want to send our prayers and well wishes to him and his family, and thank all the first responders that got to him and did what they could to
Hmm.
keep that young man alive.
Yeah, preserve his life, and that, and the outpouring of support, and you know realizing the situation at hand, and not trying to force a football game to be played, as some things are bigger than football. He is a human being that, at the end of the day, it would, it's tacky to trying to, people are, the Skip Baylesses of the world making comments, and these people
Right,
they're trying to say, oh, let's play because of my fantasy football team and everything
right.
like that. It's just selfish, and just not reading the room and not understanding the situation. But like you said, B.O.P is praying for Damar Hamlin, and his family, and that even the Buffalo Bills organization, as they're dealing with it. Those players that witnessed it live, that was there, watching the whole scene and him being resuscitated, and it's only stuff like that lives on with you forever. It never leaves you. So prayers out to the Buffalo Bills, the organization, the players, the Damar Hamlin and his family. We do send out prayers and actively praying for these guys.
Yeah, and shout out to Roger Goodell. Understand that this game was meaningless to
Hmm.
both teams. Both teams are in the playoffs. Both teams are pretty much going to be 1, 2, or 3 going
Hmm.
forward. It doesn't really matter thing. And these guys are built and they are loved and they're shown so much of their athletic prowess that it's shocking to see somebody who trained his whole life, the weights, the tracks, the all that, to just fall out at his young age. That's shaking these young men up because they think they're invincible because they're told since they were 6 years old that they're godlike and they're they're big, they're strong, they're fast, nothing can hurt them.
Invincible.
And
Yeah,
when they see something like this, the mindset is shaking, and there's no reason why they should have played that game this week or next week. It is what it is at this point.
yeah. They should just move on, and if they want to call it I put an asterisk on it, the record or whatever. It is what it is. However they want to do it. I even heard that they're even thinking about extending the slate one more week and kind of letting it. I don't know if we're still gonna play games, or some games may be played, some games may not. This weekend, so it's yet to be seen. All I know is that the Bills and the Bengals aren't going to play this week for sure. So we're gonna see how they're gonna rectify that and with the schedule.
Hell, even the Steelers are talking about not playing because
Hmm.
Tom had known since he was 12, and then he
Yeah,
got player,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
family.
He's from Pittsburgh, so
Yeah,
he's from Pittsburgh. He went to Pittsburgh to play college football. So that's a sensitive subject, and so they made it. NFL Players Association may take a stand and say we're not playing this weekend. Um, y'all need to figure it out.
especially if his condition goes worse.
Right. Especially if between now and Saturday something major happens, then it's like, okay, yeah.
Don't forget, we got what 3 Buffalo Bill players that were at Buffalo last year.
Mm-hmm.
That
Right.
we had.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. And I also have one little thing to throw out there. I over this past season, mainly this past season, ever since I've been seeing the spaces and the Twitter blogs and everybody's been able to be into the world to have their own opinions about these players, and they critique the players' play. They talk about them. There's some people, some fans get very very personal with these players that are playing football, and they call them all kind of names. They attack their wives, they attack their families,
Yeah.
they attack them personally over football, right? And I think what happened yesterday, to see a young man almost lose his life
Mhm.
for competing in a sport for your entertainment. I think that damn near death experience that we all witness should give you guys to show you that you should have a little bit more respect for these players.
And compassion, man. Like,
Compassion. These guys are laying their lives on the line on Sundays, on Mondays, on Thursdays, at practice, cardiac arrest, broken knees, broken backs, concussions. They're doing all this for their competition and for our entertainment. And for us to go in on Twitter, talk about their families, talk about them personally, I think we should learn to have a little more respect.
yeah. And that's the thing, man. You people clamor for respect and clamor and say and do things on the internet for respect and for admiration and for, all those different terms you want to use, but then don't return the favor. I mean, it's an old saying,
Right.
to get respect, you got to give respect.
That's right.
And so everybody wants to be a hot take artist, wants to be, you know, I'm doing something different. Whatever. But at the end of the day, man, these are human beings. These are real people. Same way you charge somebody up on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, any of these social media platforms, you charge them up on there and keep that same energy in real life.
That's right.
Keep the same energy. If you bold enough and you boss enough to do all this hot boxing and hot talking on the internet, be ready for whatever smoke comes towards your way in real life.
Or just have enough respect not to do it, and you
Right,
don't have to worry about no smoke.
right. Just
Just show
respect everybody.
enjoy the sport,
Right,
enjoy what you get to watch, and just leave it at that.
right. And think about it is that the way it comes off is that they say people hate players or they hate certain athletes or whatever. There's no hate, you know, amongst any players. Even Deshaun Watson, there should not be any hate
Right,
for that man.
right.
Deshaun Watson or whoever. These people are out here risking their lives every day.
That's right.
Whatever they do, they personal lives, whatever they do, that's none of our business anyway. Just like it ain't none of their business to know what our personal lives entail.
As much as people disliked what Davis Mills did on the field this year,
Hmm.
it does not give us
Nobody
the right
hates him.
to attack him personally. Nobody hates him.
Nobody
We,
hates
we
him.
wish we wish him success in his career,
Right.
and we were stood behind him. But there's no need to go to that next level. I've seen a guy attack his mom.
Yeah, that was just
That's
yeah.
uncalled for, unbelievably ignorant. And forgive me, I'm not a Davis Mills fan, but I would ask for forgiveness to his mother that
Hmm.
she even received that type of talking to. So it just got to stop. But let's move on.
Yeah.
What you got next for us, AD?
I mean, right now, you're talking about sad situations and bad things happening. I mean, right now, we vying for that number one pick, man.
Mm,
And right now, the bad thing that can happen is the Chicago Bears lose and we pull out a victory.
mm,
Uh,
Hey, Eddie, before you start, I want to show the pettiness of my good friend CJ. When I put my pick on there, he gonna
Yeah,
back down and put his pick on there. I just want to show
yeah.
the pettiness
Let the
of the group
pettiness
that
start.
why we can't rise
That
above the
look,
pettiness and just understand what it was. I mean,
Yeah,
that's gonna be our topic.
representation.
Look, the guys y'all that's on y'all screen, y'all profiles.
Hmm.
You know, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. That is gonna be the last topic we're gonna talk about in the conversation that needs to be had, should be had amongst all fans, and kind of buckle up and get ready, man.
Right. It's
For
gonna
the
be a
wild
long
ride
off
this
season.
all season.
Yeah.
But right now, since we're talking about them, we're trying to get that number one pick so we can choose one of these guys. We're, you know, I need the coach to come out and Jeff Saturday to at least say have some pride and say we
Yeah.
got to, you know, put our best foot forward and let's win this game. We're not gonna sit anybody.
Right.
You know, all these guys is playing for incentives. Go ball out, get every incentive that you need. Sam Ellinger, I need you to, you know, pull
Play
the
for
rabbit
your
out
career.
your hat. play like your career depends on it, and
Yes.
just go out and just ball out and do what you do, man. That's the hope. That's the prayer for the number one pick, because that is just simple as that. Texans lose, we get number one pick.
It's
Simple
pretty
as that.
easy.
Pretty easy. You know, you lose
Go
this
ahead,
game,
Drew.
you end up with two. Was it? The record is 2-14-1.
right.
So
So here's my advanced stat thinking. Like I said earlier, is we have to win because if the Colts win, the Colts lose. I think they go to 3 or 4, and that means the Bears are the number one pick. If they lose too, I don't trust the Colts to mess this up because if they can trade up 2 spots and not use a lot of draft capital and get that quarterback they want, they have a lot of history, especially the last 20 years with the number one pick for quarterbacks.
You talking
You
about the
don't
coach?
the
the
coach,
Colts.
yeah.
You don't want your rival to supplant you for the best quarterback or the best player in this league and in
Well,
the
shoot.
draft class. So don't even take it for granted that whatever quarterback you get is gonna maybe CJ, maybe Bryce. Don't even put it in situations because I man, shit, just luck with advanced scouting. Who knows? But
That right there would be the most Texan thing ever.
Could I be petty again?
Go ahead.
Can I be petty, Jules? You should want that then, right?
what I want it.
Because the best quarterback is Bryce Young, and if the Colts jump us from 3-1 and take Bryce Young, you'll get C.J. Stroud at number
I'm not.
two.
This is not the space or the time to
After
sound
you,
who is
we
the
got
better
all the time.
who is the better quarterback going forward because there's a lot more going more and tell the
We
OC
got all the time in the world.
the future OC of the Texans got to figure out what he does and what he likes, what kind of quarterback he likes. There's a lot to go forward to say that Bryce Young might be a little overrated by y'all Bama fans all of a sudden. But but we didn't want
I'm
to go
not
that
no
route
Bama
today.
fan.
We gonna give Bryce Young his love because every 95% of who near the quarterback is Bryce Young, and I get it. The kid is phenomenal. I'll never say a bad thing about the 16-year-old young man who can throw the ball for Alabama.
Right, and I was just being petty, but you
He looked
guys,
like my son that just graduated from high school not too long ago.
no, come on now, come on now. If your son could throw how many touchdowns in the SEC for the past 2 years, we need to sign your son up then.
I didn't say quarterback playing. I just said the size of the building and his height.
Hey, well, the size don't always matter, man. You know that.
I got it. It's the fight of the dog, right?
It's the fighting the dog. That's right.
I got you.
Man.
You got Drew Brees was about that size. Drew
But
Brees was slinging that ball all over the field. Now I will say this: you and AD are very correct, and I stand with you guys that it makes no sense, 0 sense, for us to win this game
zero.
At all. At
at
all.
all. And I and the, you know that it makes no sense because you know that the Colts don't think that they should win the game. Right? They're
The
gonna do
Colts
their
trying to
best.
tank too.
Right.
Hey, let's
They're
make
gonna
it
do
even.
their
Let's tie again. Let's
they're
tie
gonna do
again.
their best to lose that game. And why shouldn't we do our best to lose that game? And here's how I think you should do it. I think Nick Casario should sit Petrie.
Mhm,
He should sit Nelson. He should sit Tunsil. He should sit Howard. He should sit Cooks, and he should start Jeff Driscoll.
mhm.
Davis Mills got booed at the end of last game, so he has the ability to say, "We think Jeff Driscoll gives us the best chance to win this game, so we're going to
Yeah.
start Jeff Driscoll." If I was Casario, that's how you tank, because you can't ask a player to go on the field and not play his hardest,
Mhm.
right? But you can sit the important players so that gives you the best chance not to win the game. And I think that is up to Nick Casario if he wants that number one overall pick, because Lovie Smith and Pep Hamilton are going to try to win the game for their coaching jobs,
Yeah, and
right?
but at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's they jobs ain't nothing they can do on Sunday that's gonna change the move the needle either way.
Yeah, I
Right.
wouldn't care if whoever quarterback dropped 50 pieces on the Colts. Pep getting fired.
I agree with you, but in their mind, they thinking, well, I got to win this game because it can help me get another job,
Mhm.
or it can help me. Lovey might think it can help him keep the job, but we got to lose this game, bro.
Hey,
Yeah.
question: do y'all think that Lovey's situation is already pretty much determined?
I
Yeah,
Because
think it is.
like I said, you said there's nothing that they can do in this game or should sway anybody's decision about keeping him or firing him.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think
Mhm.
Lovey even said it himself. Maybe was it yesterday or the day before? Uh, we are two. we're 2-13 or whatever it is, and one.
Mhm.
And I've been the head coach of this team, so it is what it is. And he knows it.
Oh yeah, and he
Isn't
ain't.
that what he said?
Yeah, it ain't gonna be no shake, man. When he put out a record like this, you to me that's just like you going to a job and you fuck up everything, and like you expecting to get that pink slip.
Right.
You expecting like if you know you done fucked up, you done came in late every damn day for the last 6 months, and you done called off, you done did everything you could possibly do to get fired. At some point, you just waiting for them to call you in the office and say, "Come on in, sit down."
All right, so let me play devil's advocate, right? How could say Lovey Smith is retained? How would y'all spend? How y'all beat John Harris, Mark Vanderbeer, Andre Ware, all the people who are paid by Texans to spin this to see as it being a positive to keep Lovey Smith going forward?
It's gonna be a whole bunch of talk. It's gonna be a whole bunch of verbiage that ain't saying nothing. It's gonna be a whole bunch of he Lovey is a great man. It's gonna be how great of a man Lovey is, how
Mm-hmm.
great of a motivator Lovey is, and it's gonna divert from it talking anything about him being a football coach.
It's gonna go into the personnel wasn't there for him. Yeah,
Excuses gonna be laid out, and he
yeah,
deserves another year because of the way the team played for him. All of the
right.
things we're hearing now is what's going to be spoken with the radio heads and everything like that. The John Harris and Mark Vandermeer, 6'10". Those the narratives that are going to be spun. But you, I've said this on Spaces. I'm gonna say it here again. What's the difference between firing Lovey this year and next year?
Well, I think they can also be like, well, we don't think that is right that you fire a black man on Black Monday. It,
Let's fire him.
it's just not right.
Look, let's fire him on Black Friday.
Let's fire him on
let's
Black
let's make it
Friday.
let's make it Black Friday.
I don't think there's any. He knows the writing is on the wall.
hmm
He knows. I'm basically pretty sure he knows what he signed up for. And
hmm
yeah, I don't see any way that they keep him, especially not Pep. Um, and they both had bad cards. They was both dealt bad cards.
Yeah.
But it
And,
is what it is. When you get
and
a new head, when you go and draft the number one overall quarterback at the number one overall pick, you've got to start fresh.
yeah. And
So
and it makes absolutely no sense, and it undermines Lovey Smith if you say we're going to fire the coordinators and coaches, but we're going to hire said defensive coordinator and said offensive coordinator for you, which is
that ain't gonna
similar.
work.
That doesn't work in any sense of in any fashion where a coach is, because at the end of the day, let's be real. If Lovey Smith was told that he had to go find him a defensive coordinator, and he had to hire one, you know what that's end up going to be, and is his son is going to end up being a defensive coordinator. And you know, all you're going to end up doing is finding a offense coordinator is just going to elevate McDaniels, which is a Nick Casario guy.
And
So,
that's gonna piss everybody off.
and then that you talking about, that's if you leave it up to Lovey to pick, because Pep
Right.
Hamilton was a Lovey guy. So if you get rid of him and you tell him to pick somebody else, he's just gonna go up the chain. He's not gonna do much changes.
So
Um,
there's nothing positive that
no,
we can say to get Lovey,
no. I
not
mean,
keep Lovey, but how can Nick spin it to say, hey, we're gonna keep Lovey another year?
If
Nick
Because
you
gonna
if you
because
Nick
if
gonna
as much
take
as we say it now, it's not a possibility. It could be a possibility.
if you if you
Jules.
if,
Ain't
if
ain't
you look
enough ain't enough Silicon Valley references. Ain't
uh,
enough. Ain't enough hand gestures. Ain't enough. None of all. Ain't enough of none of that to make me eat any of that word salad he gonna be throwing out there.
well,
Okay.
he's definitely gonna have some word salad for us. You know, hold the tomatoes and hold the onions. He but to answer your question, Jules, that he could spin it by saying that Lovey Smith was the guy that they've always wanted from the very beginning. He's a great leader of men. Even through this adversity of this season, he played. He had none of his players stopped playing for him. They all kept playing for him. We almost beat the Chiefs and the Cowboys. We played well against the Eagles.
Right.
I just need to get Lovey the proper talent.
Right.
Look at what he did with Stingley. Look at what he did with Christian Harris and Petrie. He just needs more players and to help him out on the defensive side. Our problem stemmed from the offensive side, and he could spin it to where he needs to do a better job himself of filling up the offensive side of the ball, which would help out Lovey's defensive side. And he could also spin it by saying, we're looking into getting Lovey the proper offensive coordinator and offensive coaches that would help him lead this team. And so that could be a way of spinning it.
Right.
Um,
Which I agree. But my current point to you is now I'm playing the other side is if
yeah.
Lovey Smith was the guy you always wanted, why did you interview everybody else before you interviewed Lovey?
Well, I mean that's just the spin game. That's the word salad that he
Yeah.
used. You know, we can all figure out that it's full of shit, but
I got you.
I mean, it's pretty obvious that he was a stopgap coach.
Yeah, and I like I said to everybody is everybody says how for the ones who support Lovey or run it back, say, oh, hey, we could run it back with the crew, whatever, be better players, about that. You're running it back with a coach that you didn't even want this year, that you had to kind of fall into your lap because the organization was run so badly that you had a power struggle for coaching, who want to coach here, who can pick your offense coordinator, all that stuff. Just a lot of a mess going forward. So the whole organization being ran as bad as it was, even this year, that he fell into your lap, and nobody wanted Lovey Smith as a head coach in the last 10 years. Let's just be honest.
mm-hmm.
So for them to say Lovey is a good coach, what has he done the last 8 years that say he's a good coach going forward? So
Yeah, and I can go back to his Tampa Bay days, and you know, people want to say, well, he didn't have any talent. What is he expected to do? Well, what did he do when he did have talent? I mean, when that last Tampa Bay team, you're talking about what Jameis is the quarterback who was fresh off a Heisman and national championship, and you get Jameis, and then you have ridiculous defensive players on that team. You had Darrell Revis. You had, I mean, just stud after stud on the defensive side. I think was it JPP was young then, if I'm not mistaken, and then
Jerry McCoy.
McCoy was there. So I mean, like that team was loaded, and even on the offensive side of the ball, they were kind of loaded as well. So I'm like, it wasn't much, you know, talent wise that you could really add to just say you don't have anything. And he didn't produce. So I
Right.
mean, like, and he got fired because of it. I mean, he improved the team, but with all the talented players, I mean, Levante David was a linebacker, and then they had another linebacker. Like he had two or three linebackers that were all pros or Pro Bowl, future Pro Bowl players. They were damn good. They're rookie, second year players. So I mean, you had a laundry list of players on that team that you can do to be successful. And I think the most he did was win 6 games that year. And
Right.
then got fired. So I mean,
And,
like,
and and we can agree that he got. I'm not saying he got a raw deal, but the way they
the way they did
fired
it,
him
yeah,
and hired the OC was legitimately bad. Especially
yeah,
we it's a B.O.B. We gonna really say it, for a black coach to lose their job for a white OC who and he struggled being
hmm
an
and he
OC
got fired
before.
2 years. He got fired 2 years later.
Yeah, and he wasn't a good coach when he had a team before he went to Tampa Bay. So
Hmm
it was a bad deal for him to get fired, but he didn't. He hasn't coached very well since his
No,
days in Chicago. Let's just be honest.
yeah, I mean, even if you look at his, college coaching tape, I mean, it's just Illinois took off after he left.
Right,
Illinois is a better program because he's gone.
right.
And that goes to being set in your ways. Him being as the age he's at,
Mm,
and him being set in his ways and not really adapting the way that the NFL has adapted.
right. And and
Um,
and and this is why me and you differ when you say he can either part ways or move up to the I
mhm.
guess upper
Front office, yeah,
front
just in
office.
the,
Same
yeah, have
same
a
thing
front
with
office role.
yeah
Same thing.
the same thing they did with Ron Kamel. If he's that the game has passed him that much long, I don't want him influencing anything on the team going forward.
Only thing I give Lovey, as far as like the game passing him by, yes. What hasn't passed Lovey by is evaluating talent.
I give you that. I give you that.
Lovey has been a great talent evaluator. And look at the guys that he's drafted. Look at the guys that he's brought on that are, outside of, a handful of guys. These guys have produced when they were considered, throwaway players. You look at a double O who was a throwaway player for the Rams,
Mm-hmm.
who barely played with the Rams. Came in and damn near has double digit sacks this year.
Right.
You look at, Blake Cashman was brought in, and Blake Cashman played well enough to get on, garner an extension.
That's my boy.
The fact that Lovey was able to plop Tremont Smith out there and him making plays at cornerback 2 years in a row, shows that he can identify talent. I look at Derek Stingley, I look at Christian Harris, you know, um, he's a great talent evaluator. Finding, Kirk Heinisch,
Yeah.
playing,
And you can tell
those.
that him and Nick were on the same page when it came to
Mm-hmm.
defensive players.
Right, and that's the thing is that if you bring him in an advisory role, just as far as like finding talented players, then that works out fine. I would even pay him the same salary if he could, help us talent evaluate. Basically, be a scout in some form.
Right.
But
But it comes to X and O's. I don't want them saying no X and O's on my team though.
nah.
Well, I
He
thought
got
y'all
it.
was trying to talk us into keeping him.
Oh no,
Like
no,
I
man,
said,
no.
but we have to be responsible to say that he could be here another year or two because of what reasons, and we can give you we as a group we can give you some reasons of why he can be a good guy, a good
Mhm.
coach going forward because he is stable. He is that father figure that people love for and all that stuff and all that. Like you said, just sad dressing, just words. But if you want to go to the next level, Lovey Smith is not the guy to go next level.
And the thing about it,
Right.
everybody knew that Lovey wasn't the coach of the future.
Right,
So, at the end of the day, you're delaying the process. And whatever coach, whether they come in this year, next year, they're going to come into a better situation than what Lovey had. So,
right,
regardless of the fact, hate that it happened to him, but you had a choice. You had a choice to say no. You
right.
said no the first year. You had a choice to say no again, but you chose to take it.
Well, he's gonna
So,
walk away. He's gonna walk away with quite a bit of money when
Right,
he
yeah,
walks
but
away.
that
So
right, but he walked away with quite a bit of money in Tampa Bay. He
right.
walked away
right.
with quite a bit of money in
Uh,
Chicago too.
Illinois.
So
So we all three black males on this show, and it's the
Right.
black on podcast, and we can give the Lovey the kick out of here, and we ain't gonna have no fault that he's black. He a black
mhm.
man getting fired. We don't care. We want to win. So I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
that narrative to get in the field. Oh, we're a bad organization. We good. We hard on black coaches, and we don't do no. The man just can't coach. I don't give a damn if he black or white. He can't coach. He needs to get out of here. So I don't want them to hold that against us, and I don't want Cal to say it may look bad if we find another black head coach.
So this is the thing with that, Jules, and I've said it on Spaces before too. Ain't nothing that the Houston Texans can do this year that's going to change the narrative from the outside looking in.
Right.
Nothing that they do, positive or negative, is going to change the thought process. If we do everything right, we're still going to be a racist organization, and we're gonna be this our owners racist, and
Mm.
we one of the worst organizations in football. If we do things wrong, see, I told you they're a racist organization, and they one of the worst organizations in football. Nothing is going to change the narrative is not going to change. The only thing that changes the narrative is when you win.
Right.
Cincinnati was a
Mhm.
dumpster fire. They drafted Joe Burrow, and people still talked about Cincinnati being a dumpster fire. And it wasn't until they made the magical run to go to the Super Bowl that now Cincinnati is the darling of the NFL.
Right.
That's
They
right.
they talked about. I mean, look at all the years with Marvin Lewis as the head coach and how they could never get out of the ground. Yeah, man, people talked about Cincinnati like crazy. People talking about Cleveland
That's
like
right. Winning,
crazy.
winning cures all, man.
Right.
Right, and all Cleveland has to do is next year go to the playoffs and make a run. Now the whole narrative with Cleveland has changed.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's all you have to do is like Al Davis used to say, just win,
And I agree. Like I
just
said,
win.
and then people who say those things are just lazy artists, lazy journalists. People
Clickbait.
just click. They
Look,
just want to
yeah.
say something and tag and get more followers. Oh, see what I'm talking about? No, it just makes no sense to say this organization is
Mhm.
a racist organization if we fired a black head coach because neither one of the coaches should have been coaches here, and
In
it
the
does
first place.
look it makes it
Mhm.
look bad when we hired in the first place. So
Yeah.
firing them is not gonna make it look even worse.
But what's crazy is that you keep replacing them with other black coaches. I mean, it kind of kills the narrative off top. I mean, I remember how it went with David Culley got fired. Oh, they were talking crazy and this and that, and they would Houston Texans were just talked about like a dog. And as soon as we hired Lovie Smith, everything just shut up.
Yeah, we were trying to hire
But
Brian Flores
Brian Flores,
if
Brian,
the
we would hire
report's
Brian
correct.
Flores. Yeah, we were. That's the only reason why David Culley got fired. I'm gonna keep saying it. I need all y'all people to stop saying because it was damn Tim Kelly. That wasn't the damn reason why he got fired. The
Yeah,
man got fired because Brian Flores got fired unexpectedly in the Houston Texans, and that was Nick Caserio's guy. And he wanted Brian Flores, and he said, "I'm gonna do what I need to do to get Brian Flores." Brian Flores fucked the situation up, but At the end of the day, I need people to stop saying that it was Tim Kelly was the reason why David Culley got fired. That ain't. If that was the case, then he wouldn't have never been hired in the first place.
I
He
mean,
should have hired Tim Kelly in the first place if that was the case.
if we hired Brian Flores, we got the Latino support and the black folks support. I mean, this is what we could have killed both two birds with one stone.
Well, you know, and I listen to you guys and make all these great points. And the sad thing for Lovey is, and for most coaches as well, is you're only as good as your staff, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So Lovey's staff, if you look on the offensive side, is like, in all honesty, is a put together staff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a staff that is learning how to be offensive coordinators and quarterback coaches. Some of those guys hadn't held those positions in the NFL at all.
Mhm.
So when you judging Lovie Smith and saying that he's not that good of a coach and he's having trouble coaching, it goes to his staff and the bad coaching that Pep Hamilton showed us this year is reflected upon Lovie Smith.
Right.
Everybody talks about complementary football. There was many times this year that the Texas defense bended but didn't break.
Right.
Mhm.
They
And
just
gave the
they
offense
had
opportunities.
they've had interceptions, they had fumbles, they had takeaways,
The
and the
Philadelphia
offense
game.
just couldn't do anything with it.
Mhm.
Right.
So his staff, along with some of his outdated philosophy on defense, is kind of what has leaned everybody into believing he needs to be gone. Because Lovey is still a good guy. He's still a good players coach. The players love him. And he is a pretty good evaluator of talent. His issue is that his defense is a little bit outdated when it comes to him not making enough adjustments. And then it also is that his staff is relatively new and it wasn't good enough to carry the load that he needed them to carry on offense.
So
Mhm.
So
is his
I,
staff if his staff on Nick Casario or is it on him?
Well, that's the question we need to know because my belief is that once they did hire Lovey, I think he demanded to have control of his staff at least.
Mhm.
Okay.
You can tell by the picks, man.
Right,
It's too many connections. Like
right,
the way they brought the coaches on, you can look at it on the offensive side of the ball.
right.
It's a lot of Pep Hamilton
His
and
buddies,
his buddies. He's worked with them, whether it be from the offensive line coach to the running,
and it was good to see a lot of
tight
brothers
ends
being
coach.
picked up. Right,
Yeah, I mean the Texans have one of the blackest coaching staffs in the NFL.
Next
right.
10th day.
You
But
know.
they just weren't as qualified as they needed to be. I don't believe.
Right.
Mhm.
Just like I don't want to hire. As bad as it sounds, I don't want to hire you just because you're black.
Right.
Right.
I need you to be black and qualified.
Right.
And to have their back at least, they honestly didn't have enough time to develop what they if they were going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that's the life of the NFL. I'm not saying that the quarterback coach wasn't good or that
Mm-hmm.
Pep Hamilton couldn't be good, but in this one year that they had, they weren't who they needed to be in order to save their jobs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, but
all that's gonna go out the window, man, because like I said before, when Nick Casario gets that number one draft pick, you've gotta have a fresh face in here. You,
yeah, let's talk about the fresh faces, Chris. Which
yeah,
which one are we gonna go with? Are we going with C.J. Stroud, who showed out against the Georgia Bulldog defense and lit them up for 5 touchdowns and was just going crazy and doing everything, or do we go with Bryce Young, who lit up Kansas State for 5 touchdowns and went crazy in his bowl game? And they're both cemented themselves as being 1A and 1B going into the NFL draft, you
yeah,
know, this off season. So Jules has his pick as he's shown. Chris, see Roy, you got your pick as shown.
yeah.
You know what they say on what they say. Y'all get it on, man. Y'all go at it.
I
Ding
mean,
ding.
Ding, ding, ding.
at the end of the day, anybody that can breathe and has any kind of talent or skill level or just confidence can supplant Mills. So I'm not really a diehard CJ Stroud fan, but
Yeah.
I think that his game is smooth. I don't think he goes too high, too low. I think he just plays position very well. I think this is the only game he had to have this game because this whole 2 years has always been about he can't read multiple defenses. He locks down on receivers. It's too easy. It's the Ohio State system and all that stuff. So this game kind of showed that he actually has potential to be that guy. It should not change you on how you feel about him. This one game should not change you and say, "Oh, he can be the guy," because that's just not how it should go. It should be consistently going forward. Now, when it comes to Young, Young has shown and put these numbers up against the same Georgia defense last year twice, and has played the same level of high explosive and high scoring games through his whole 2 years of being Alabama's quarterback. So to me, it's 1A, 1B. I have a preference. I just think that he's more. I think Stroud is more of what if Lovey was going to be here and Nick sticks here. I think he's more of a Nick kind of guy. That's one reason I'm leaning towards CJ.
Well, as long as you know it's a 1A and a 1B, we okay. As long as you know that Bryce Young is definitely the 1A. I will say this: both of those guys are ultra talented,
Right.
and I hope for success for both of those young black men. Um, they're stepping into their dreams that they've dreamed of for their whole lives. So, who am I to shit on any of their dreams or to
Right.
discredit any of them for the talent that they've made to be able to get to the point they are? That being said, if I could, I would say this: C.J. Stroud. Let's look at it. Has I don't even think he's thrown to a second round receiver in 2 years.
Right.
I don't think they've even lined up a second round receiver. All of his receivers has been first round picks. I mean, we are talking about a Garrett. What is his name? Garrett
Wilson,
Wilson.
Wilson, yeah.
We're
Gary
talking
Marvin
Wilson.
about
Harris,
Chris
Mary Hires.
Olave.
Right.
We're
Marvin
talking
Harrison
about a
this year.
Najibba.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about Marvin Harrison. And we're even talking about the other kid, I can't,
Ibuka. Ibuka.
Ibuka.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't even think he's thrown to any bad receivers. And I watched the game the other day, and he was hitting his targets.
Right.
Oh man, he was accurate as hell.
He
But
had to be.
his targets was running like 5 yards wide open.
Well, hold on, Chris. Because I'm the one argument I had you is like
Uh-huh.
people say that about him, and people
Right.
forget that even Alabama. Now, I'm gonna give some leeway. Give me some leeway before you say something.
Sure.
Alabama has 4 or 5 starting receivers up and down the roster, right? Just because they don't play that way this year, and they didn't play that well, they didn't. They went on level of Alabama quarterbacks receivers going forward. They're still those 4 or 5 stars are still better than most of cornerbacks who are 3 and 2 stars against an ACC
Kind of
teams.
breaking up there, Jules.
I say even though those 4 or 5 starters didn't
The
play
football
well,
gods don't like what you're saying.
they still are better. They're still better athletes and still better players than the cornerbacks they're playing and against Missouri, against Will Levis's defenses and Mississippi State cornerbacks. They're still better than those guys. Anybody on the Alabama receiving corps will be a star receiver on any other team.
But you in
Correct?
the matrix, bro.
Okay.
I
Well,
hear him. I hear him good. I think it's you,
Oh,
Chris.
maybe that's just me.
you go. You
No.
don't want to hear you don't want to hear any bad or any shade towards Bryce Young. But we
Okay,
have to
now
be
I can
there.
hear you. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
Mhm.
ahead again, man.
Okay. What I said was the Alabama has 4 and 5 rated receivers. Correct.
They have four or
Correct.
five rated receivers.
Like four or
Yes.
five star, four or
Star
five star.
receivers. Right.
I mean, everybody's got that, but
No. No. No.
what I'm talking
But
about first round draft picks.
I know. But they didn't play to their abilities this year. Correct.
No, he didn't have first round draft picks this year. I don't believe.
Because they didn't play to their ability. They were
No,
drafted or they were
they played
recruited.
to their ability. They just weren't first round. I mean, let's be
Don't be
honest.
surprised if Ja'Cory Brooks is a first round draft pick next year, though.
And maybe
So,
2 years. Yeah, maybe. Well, I don't know. He could be,
but
but
my bottom line,
they
what I'm
weren't
trying to
that
say
this
is
year.
those receivers that even though they didn't play to what they should have been recruited as, they're still better than most cornerbacks they play going forward. There's 2-star and 3-star cornerbacks they playing against Mississippi State, against Ole Miss. So those corners, they still got he still got talent though. But we
Okay,
but
but
we
what
so
I'm
you
saying is, Jules.
but we so used to Bama having 3 or 4 receivers drafted every year that when they have an average receiving core, we take it for granted.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. So like if you take Bryce Young and put him over there at Ohio State with Marvin Harrison and all them badass receivers and Wilson Garrett, he probably would break every record in the book with them receivers. I mean, playing in the ACC, excuse me, playing in the Big Ten,
The Big Ten.
yeah, playing in the Big Ten against Iowa and Wisconsin, and he would dominate that division, that conference. And I agree. They're both good guys, man. They're both good quarterbacks. It's just what you see from Bryce Young is the poise and the just the he has the superior it factor of all the quarterbacks that are coming out into the draft. I can't see any football skill or non-skill that he doesn't have or does have that would disqualify him for the number one overall pick. The only thing that people are questioning is his size.
Right. And I give you that to you.
I believe if he was 6'2", 6'3", it wouldn't be a shadow of a doubt if you take Bryce Young number one. And I still don't think there's a shadow of a doubt because if you surround him with the talent like he had with J-Mo, you remember last year, the year before last year, he had J-Mo and he had Mechie, and they ran through all of college football. They even beat Georgia. They got and then they lost J-Mo and Mechie, and he still went out there and threw for 400-500 yards.
Right.
So I just think that Bryce Young is the guy that can lead the Texans to where they need to go, uh, and I'm gonna just stick with that, man. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just my opinion, brother.
and I'm gonna end it off with my opinion. I'll be happy with either one of these guys. Hell, I'll be happy with goddamn Anthony Richardson. Anybody.
I like Anthony Richardson too now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be happy as long as they make the decision to take a quarterback. I'll be happy. But y'all got any final thoughts before we go ahead and close this episode out?
I mean, like, okay, so there's 2 things I want to talk about before we go. One is if we do get past Lovey and we let Lovey go apart ways, what kind of coach do you think Nick is actually going to have his final choice to do what he want to do, get the guy he really want, and have no more excuses going forward about who picked the head coach going forward?
He wants a coach. He wants a Vrabel. He wants a what's the coach in
Mike
Detroit?
Tomlin,
Dan
Mike Tomlin.
Campbell. He wants a Mike Tomlin. He wants these type of coaches who,
When can he hire a coach, AD?
win.
He could,
Immediately after the season is over?
Well, after
once he interview a minority candidate, he that's when he can hire.
he
So
has
he
to.
doesn't
He
have to
has to.
wait for the league year to open up in May,
No, no,
March.
no. Because most coaches are hired before the league year opens
Okay,
anyway.
that's what I wanted to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no. He can fire Lovie Smith on January 9th, do interviews on January 10th, and have a new coach on January 11th.
Well,
Yeah.
he don't need to wait for Friday or Black Monday.
Yeah.
He just
It's
needs to fire
Well,
him
well,
on
the
like
thing
it's
about
next
it.
week, Chris.
Well, the
It's
thing
literally
about it.
next week.
fire him on Taco
Look.
Tuesday.
So we're gonna have
Fire him on
reports.
Taco Tuesday.
We're gonna have reports coming out, Chris, on Saturday and Sunday
Yeah,
that Lovie Smith is gonna be fired,
that's what they need to do
and that's how it
because
should
there's
roll. And then
going to be so many people looking for head coaches. We need to be the first ones out there.
Who was the first one
We don't need to
we fired
stall this
Bill
around and
O'Brien?
hold on to Lovey for an extra week.
you can be the first to
Because we're
fire,
trying to be
but you
morally
can't.
correct.
You can be the first to fire, but you can't be the last to hire.
and that's what we was. We were the last to hire both 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
which
And we
which
need to
makes what
be the
makes this
first to fire
organization
and the
run.
first to hire.
What makes this
Mm-hmm.
organization that much crap in the outside that we can't get it right 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
what do y'all think that? So how many jobs will be available this year?
I say about 8.
Eight.
Yeah, at least
Mm-hmm.
eight. At
Name
least
eight.
eight.
So you got Houston.
Okay.
You're gonna have Carolina.
Indy.
Which I think is a mistake. I think they should keep Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, I do too. But I
Yeah, but
think he's going to be going. So you got Houston, Carolina, the Colts.
Okay.
That's 3. Denver is already open, so that's 4.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going? Keep going. I'm trying to think of the teams that's at the bottom.
You think you think the Saints will hire a new coach?
Saints are gonna get a new coach. That's 5. Um,
watch out for Washington.
Washington is a
I think the
Commanders.
Commanders. They asked somebody
That's 6.
asked
Mm-hmm.
somebody asked their coach, well, what if you what if you would have won today or something? For some reason, he didn't know that they could be disqualified from the
Right.
playoff, and he didn't have a clue that he should not have played Carson Wentz. So I could see him maybe getting fired. Who else you got out there?
We got 6. I did.
Arizona,
That's a 7.
Arizona.
Yeah,
Arizona.
that's 7.
That's 7, and then I'm looking at. There's a possibility. There's rumors circulating that McVay for the Rams may retire,
Yeah.
so that may
I would
be a
love for him to come
possibility.
over here.
He
And
said
then
retire. He didn't say
retire.
take a job change. If he retires, that means you have to give him. You have to give the Rams draft picks.
Yeah,
If he
don't be
retires.
surprised. Yeah, you're gonna have to give up a draft pick if he retires.
I
I'm
think
looking at
Tennessee.
it.
I
Don't
think
be
Tennessee making one.
surprised.
The
Don't
Chargers
be,
coach.
huh?
He made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs, so they kind of takes him.
Staley.
Yeah, Staley made the playoffs, so they kind of takes him out of it.
right.
But I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns may be looking for a new coach.
Yeah, I heard there's rumors him might be going.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 8. So where do
Yeah,
we rank, and where we rank
we
as
we
higher spots, and how do we spin ourselves as being the best job out there?
so you're going to be considered one of the best jobs out there just based on what your future entails.
Okay.
You're going to have the most cap space the following year in 24. You're going to have 2 first-round picks the next 2 years. You're going to have cap space this year to upgrade the team. You're going to have a top draft pick to choose the player of your choosing, whoever you want to start off your franchise with as
And
being a
we
head
got Roy
coach.
Lopez.
Stop it. Stop it.
But in all seriousness, Houston is a top 2 to 3 job coming into this cycle compared to the previous years.
Right.
Coming into this cycle, they're a top 2 to 3 job.
Is Nick a Henderson, or is he a positive and negative?
He's a
He,
positive.
Okay.
I think
He's
he's
well respected around the NFL, man.
Okay.
neither a positive nor a negative.
Texas fans are so hard on our own people, man.
They are.
The dude walked into a train crash.
He chose to.
I mean, but that was the bottom line. He walked into a piece of crap. He
So why
walked
why
into,
why you want to give Lovey the same category? If he
I
walks to a piece of
did.
crap.
I just did.
You
I
did.
just did.
Okay.
I
But okay,
said he
so
didn't have a staff around him. He coached his ass off. But you know, when you talking about Nick Casario, he had to clean up everything. He's made some mistakes.
right.
I give you that. But for the most part, he's put the pieces in places and he cleaned up a big mess. He cleaned up an oil spill while still running the team. He dealt with Deshaun Watson while still fielding the team. And he didn't have a selection of coaches the first 2 years. So now that's what we facing right now.
So my last question is, and I'll let everybody go. Would you give up a first round pick for Sean Payton?
I would.
I wouldn't. I
I
mean, personally,
would.
I wouldn't.
Y'all sitting here trying to figure out who the coach should be right now. Sean Payton would satisfy the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator position.
So what happens if Sean Payton comes and then it becomes another Bill O'Brien, Rick Smith situation where it's a power struggle
I
on
mean,
who's the GM?
that can happen with any coach.
It can happen with any coach, but when you have a younger coach, because I'm on the side of getting a young coach,
Right.
because I need a coach that's going to be able to have the stamina and be able to grow with the team for the next 3 years, at least the
Yeah.
next 3 years. And with Sean Payton, he's going to expect
Full control because he was GM too.
full control and he's going to expect instant results.
Right.
And when he doesn't have it, it's no telling that he says, you know what, I'm retiring again.
See, here's why I think that's a hard thing to do. When you bring a brand new quarterback, rookie quarterback into the equation, who's your franchise guy, who you need to give success to, and you have a young coach with a young staff and a young OC with just a young head coach, he's learning on the fly, just like your quarterback is. And if you look at Trevor Lawrence, he
Doug
had
Peterson.
he had a young coach with your guy, and he didn't do too good. But
Yeah, Urban Meyer.
as soon as he got rid of Urban Meyer, as soon as he got a real founded and structural sound head coach with Doug Peterson, he's flourishing. Same thing with Zach Wilson over there. And he didn't have a structure built around him to teach him this is where you're messing up. This is where you need to fix your stuff. Right now, Pep Hamilton is going through his own ups and downs of learning how to call plays and scheme up stuff. So I don't think we need somebody who's learning how to scheme up offenses to take hold of Bryce Young.
So you do
But
you,
that,
you
but
so
that,
you
but that
think
why that's why I go with a young coach and a Vrabel, Mike Tomlin, Dan
OC,
Campbell type of coach is because they rely more on their coordinators than they do them trying to be the pseudo coordinator
right.
I got
and
you.
them drawing up plays. That's why D'Amico would be a great candidate because he's going to bring in a DC. He's more of a leader of men than he is a coordinator.
So
Um,
do you think Sean Payton will come in just be the head coach and not want to
no,
be
absolutely not.
and
No,
not want
he'd
to
be
have
the
full
head
control?
coach and the OC.
No,
He'd be the
I mean
head coach.
I mean the GM.
He gonna want full
Oh,
autonomy over the roster. He
I
gonna
don't know
want
about that. I think he would settle for, but I don't think he wants to come to Houston though.
I don't think he wants to come based on he knows that this situation you're not going to have full autonomy.
Right.
Right.
Like
Because
he want like every situation that's being put out there, wherever he may land, he's going to get full autonomy. Don't be surprised if he's out there in Dallas, say, you know what, you did what you could, Mike McCarthy. So long, see you later, Sean Payton. Come on.
Yeah, but the thing about Sean Payton, look what he did when he had full autonomy. He ran
Yeah.
the New York. He ran the New Orleans Saints into the ground cap wise
that's why I'm asking you, why would you want Sean Payton who wants
because
to
I know I got a GM that knows how to handle that business.
but if he wants more power of a GM power, because he was the GM and the coach, he's
Well, if
not
that's
coming here less than that. He's not coming just to be a head coach.
well,
He's
if that's
coming to
what he
say,
wants, then he need to find somewhere else to go.
there we
But
go.
if he wants to be a head coach and the offensive coordinator and run shit like that, and have some influence on the player selections and stuff like that, that's fine. But you're not gonna get full autonomy.
Now who was his mentor?
Who you talking about?
Bill Parcells.
Bill
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 Parcells.
Parcells, the
Parcells.
tuner.
Tuna.
hmm
Yeah, I mean, I'm with that. Can y'all name an offensive coordinator that y'all would want to be the head coach?
I mean, there's
Ooh,
quite a few of them.
yeah. Off top of my head, there's the young cat out of
So you got Ben Johnson out of Detroit.
that's the one that I
You
heard was the
got you
best.
got the OC in Philadelphia, Shane Steichen. You have Mike Kafka, the OC in Buffalo. You have you got a laundry list of offensive coaches
And
that
the
that
reason
are
I like
going to be hot
Detroit,
candidates.
the reason I like Detroit is because they know what they had in golf or the offense they had going forward. They kind of molded into what it was, and he coached that team, that offense, and got what they needed out there. Not say, you know what, this is gonna be my system. This is how we gonna run it.
Mm-hmm.
He let the
Well,
players play.
you can look at what he did last year too, because that offense was scoring. I think it was a point Leo brought up. That offense was scoring like 17 points a game. Before he took over the offense with the second half of the season, and they just took off.
And you can arguably say that he got more out of golf than Sean McVay did.
Mm-hmm.
But is he ready to be a head coach?
Did we think Mike McDaniel was ready to be a head coach?
I did. When I seen him talk, I really haven't paid attention to Ben
But I'm
Johnson
saying you didn't see
conversation.
him. You didn't see him talk till he was hired.
Right.
Nah, I seen him talk before that.
When?
I
Because
remember.
what he like the passing coordinator?
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
he was the
the pass.
OC.
He
He
was
was
the
the
OC
OC,
passing
but
coordinator.
he didn't really talk a lot.
Yeah,
He
but he
didn't.
had a couple of interviews, and I read about him because
Okay.
he had a drinking problem, and he literally had to stop drinking because he was going to drink his way out of coaching,
Oh, okay.
and so that's why I know I read about him, and I heard a couple of his interviews, and you could see the genius in him, and you can see his character. Some people are smart when it comes to X's and O's, but have no communication abilities like a Bill O'Brien.
Right.
He,
Mm-hmm.
he's good. He's good with dealing with the players and making them feel comfortable. But when it comes to calling plays, scheming up shit, having confidence, he's just not that guy. And no matter how much he's going to try, that's why he halfway succeeded as an OC in Alabama because he didn't have all the responsibilities of leading the entire team. And Ben Johnson, Ben Johnson, I guess his name, he is has done good with one season with being the OC. Does that qualify him to lead the entire team? Is the question. And I'm just playing devil's advocate
I
because you
mean,
got to when you pick these coaches.
but I think he had a good year last year too, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he wasn't the OC last year. He took over midway through the season.
Right. Right.
As the primary play caller.
And he very well could be the guy that we could use. Um,
Yeah.
But you want a retread, don't you, Chris?
no, I wouldn't characterize it as a retread. I would characterize it as experienced.
So name me somebody with experience other than Sean Payton that you would like to have.
I mean, I haven't looked down the coach's tree, brother. To be honest with you, I've been searching players, but that I don't know. I don't
Right.
really know, and I'm willing to take young guys, but like my thinking is you could get D'Amico Ryans to be your defensive coordinator, your head coach,
Right.
and the only problem is getting uh what y'all call him, Kafka,
Mm-hmm.
to get him. If he's already an OC, he don't probably want to come over just to be an
No.
OC.
No, and that's the thing is that what I don't want a coach to be the OC. If you're gonna be the coach, get you an OC that you trust. That's why Steichen out of Philadelphia is not a bad option because Brian Johnson would be the OC.
But the only issue with that is, after 2 years of them doing good as an OC, somebody's gonna scoop him up just like we did.
But
You
that
see, and
that's
then
but
you
that's
Yeah.
why you that's why
got to start
that,
all over with.
but that's why you train your quarterback coach or your
Mm-hmm.
assistant coach to follow the
To
same
step
system
in, yeah.
and go
Yeah,
and by
I,
that
I
time
get that.
and by the time
Yeah,
that time your quarterback should have mastered the system. So all you really need is the common ground between both of them to go forward.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. We got a big deck of cards. And there's some kings and
Mm-hmm.
queens and aces in there, but there's also some
Some
jokers.
jokers, yeah.
So we're
so
gonna so we're gonna wait until Black Monday. We're gonna see
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
what happens.
The next episode we by the time the next episode airs, we ought to know a whole bunch of everything because the season will be over and we'll be on to the off season.
that's
Right.
it, man. And uh,
So
and and I'll leave y'all with this one thing. I'm happy with the owners finally trying to listen to the fans. I
mm-hmm.
seen that they asked about the uniforms, and then I
Mm-hmm.
seen the Texans come on and said we listened, and I guess they're pushing for that light blue change of color,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
maybe an alternate color. I think that would be good to tie in the old Oilers fans with the Texans fans in the city of Houston, along with next year we'll be able to have two different colored helmets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like we're stuck with just light blue. We can have a red helmet and a light blue helmet, or a red helmet and a white helmet.
Hell,
Yeah.
I still want a new logo. I still want a new neck thing. Next thing
Yeah,
is still a silly thing to me. Silly.
yeah. I like the logo. You can just change the colors of it.
Change
You
the
know,
name too.
Change it
Wait,
all, but
yeah,
that's
where y'all
what's up.
from? We from Texas. Where? Houston, Texas. Oh,
We
come on.
the Texans.
We ain't got no imagination whatsoever.
hey, they made this the easiest hook for a theme song. Houston, Texas,
Texas.
home of the Texans.
At least we're not the Pittsburghers.
You're right. So
That's what's
with
up, man.
that being said, man, it's been a fun episode, good episode.
Yes,
Shout
sir.
out to y'all, man. This is another episode. This is your boy AD signing off with Jules and
Yeah.
OG Triple Raw, man. We'll holler at y'all on the other side of the next week when possibly we have a new head coach, or possibly, in the running for a new head coach. And we'll know all about what we're picking, number 1, number 2. With that being said, man, we signing off. We holler at y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.
Right, John.